Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I want to talk a little bit about this thing here. As you can see, or probably guess, it's a computer case. But that's not all. It's basically a lot more than that. But let's start at the beginning. So usually I have a problem when I build computers. Most of the time I start out on something like this, which is basically just a little bit of MDF with a computer power supply sandwiched in the middle, and I can just start building on something like this. And it works because you can put your graphics card on there and you can just get everything installed and you can see if it works out the way you think it should. But using a large graphics card on this is already not so great, because you bump into it, you break something. I have a bigger version of this, but I found out that it's just too clumsy. And I thought there must be something that I could build that would get around that first of all would be cheap, and it would be versatile enough that I could actually keep it the way it is for a while until I decide where to go from there. If I want to change something, if I want to move it to a permanent case, those type of thoughts. And in general, each and every PC that I build starts out like this. I have a main board, I have a power supply, and usually I've got a graphics card. Depending on the stuff you do, I might also have an SSD or a hard drive, whatever I need. And I would just put that stuff together and it would stay there where it is, and I couldn't move it. I'm kind of stuck with it. Then I go out and I buy a case and I put it into that case, and then it's kind of permanently installed. And since I don't sell my stuff on eBay like others, I have a large collection of stuff like that. So I thought I needed a reusable container, and that's exactly what I set out to build. And at the beginning I was just about to make a slightly more sophisticated version of this here. So I took it upon myself to start out and started making pieces on my laser cutter, and those pieces evolved, and from it came the idea to build, and that's where we are here, to build a type of case that is completely closed and done, so you can't take this apart. This is actually glued together, but all the parts still fall into place in a way that you can just plug them in when you're putting it together. So all of these screw holes, they're basically accessible through the top. You might need a very long screwdriver, but you can still do that. The power supply gets screwed in from the outside. Same with the graphics card, which basically just sits down in here, and it's open to the air, so it's not really dirty or dusty where I live, so that's not an issue. And if it really becomes dirty at some point, I can just take compressed air and blow it out. And so this was the prototype, and I learned a lot from making that. For example, that I'd had completely forgotten a place to put my hard drives and some other stuff. Just the sizes weren't optimal, and I didn't know where to go from there. But this was already really good. It had everything that I was looking for, and I actually had this PC on the back of here. In here, I just took it out so I could show it to you. And then I evolved on this. And this took a lot of work on the laser cutter and I think I'm into version 4 right now. And the design stayed the same way that it is. That means it is just the main board. It has the power supply. Main board here, power supply right next to it. I don't mind that the power cord is coming out the side. A power switch, which is supposed to go into the front here, and basically an ATX type opening here, so I can just shove a shield in there, and the I/O area for the graphics card. So that's what I was going with. And as I said, it evolved. It evolved a lot. It evolved to the point where I now have this. And this one here's completely assembled. Oops. Everything's in here. And it fits most of the things that I want. With this version, I made for a bigger window in the top. I made for ventilation openings down here, so the graphics card can really get rid of its heat. You don't need any other fans in here. The cooling is absolutely sufficient because it has just so much ventilation by itself. And everything is nice and organized in here. The graphics card is just where you expect it to be. The I/O shield fits perfectly, and your power connector is here on the side. But as you can see, I have a kind of overhang on all of the sides, so it's possible to put the PC on all its sides and it will still stay there perfectly. You can even operate it with the graphics card on top, which I found out works really, really well. And so I even came up with a design for a power switch, which is just in the back of here. It's just a little cutout in the wood. I have my 2 LEDs here, and there's a switch behind there. And it works very, very nicely. Now, when I was done with this, I came to a realization that actually the way this case works, it's going to scale for other sizes. This here is an ITX. I could basically do the same thing with the same wood for a micro ATX or even an ATX board. And there wouldn't be a lot of difference in there except for it scaling outward slightly. And the sizes here are so small that I can fabricate the pieces on my laser cutter. So this is really, really great because I have something that is cheap. The wood for this is €4, and cutting it takes about 2 hours until it's done, and it takes about another hour to assemble it completely. So this is really super sweet. And this PC, although it's just a setup that I can use for rigging it, I can actually use it this way. I can store it this way. I could make an adapter so I could stack these, or you can even lay them on the side because all of the faces protrude at the side. So you could stack this thing with 10 of these PCs and it wouldn't be a problem structurally. So this is really, really nice, and I'm really happy with the result of this. And in fact, this PC is working absolutely excellent. I mean, it's just a Ryzen 3600 with an RX 580, but when it's idle, it's absolutely perfectly silent. And only when you're really gaming it, or when you're really using it to work, that's when it starts getting audible, but never really loud. So it's a really nice solution, and if I have the time, I'm actually going to try to make a version of this for micro ATX, and later on maybe one for ATX. And I have some really funky ideas that you could actually have this faceplate and that would make it symmetrical, which it's not. It is not right now. But if it was, you could actually take this PC and have it like an Apple style where the graphics card is at the top and where all the openings are at the top, and I can just add a second handle right on the underside here. That would be a great possibility, and you could take this and have it sitting on the other side just the way you want it. I mean, it's so variable. It is just absolutely nice, and I'm quite happy I made it. So I just wanted to show it off. There might be some follow-ons to this. I do plan on making the DXF files of this available via my GitHub, but there are some small problems with this that I still have to solve. For example, I added sliders here for 2 hard drives. Well, there isn't any room for this hard drive, so I can just remove those 2 openings, and I can make a single opening where you could also add a 3.5-inch drive, for example. And I think I want to redesign the opening in the back so that if you really needed to, there would be a set of holes for an 80mm fan. But those are just some small things that I'm thinking about right now. For a start, this is what I have been looking for such a long time. I don't have to go out and buy a case for some computer that I'm throwing together. I can just start out in a box like this, and if it's really in a state where I want to put it in a nice case, I can do that. I could also just make inserts for these openings here and have some plexi in here or acrylic, something like that, and then have a very nice lighting. But for a start, it's the perfect case. It's super cheap. It's kind of funky. It reminds me of these the wooden boxes that you get when you buy fruit. So I don't know, maybe I should call this the Fruit Box PC Case or something. Yeah, just wanted to show it off. It's really nice, it's really cool, it's absolutely silent, and it is, apart from the fact that you need a laser cutter, it is so easy to make and to assemble. I'm really happy with that. So, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.